In today's video, we'll be recapping a fantasy romance anime movie called Tenki no Ko, aka Weathering with You. It was Japan's first Academy Award submission since Princess Mononoke. Before we get into the story, please hit the like and subscribe button for more anime recap videos. The story starts with Hina Amano, a little girl in a hospital room holding the hand of a woman who looks to be asleep or in a coma. Hina gazes out the window at Tokyo's skyscrapers, which are drenched in a torrential downpour. A little beam of light bursts through the clouds during the downpour and spotlights a lone structure. Hina exits the hospital and goes towards it, enthralled by the light. As Hina ascends the stairwell, she discovers a solitary crimson torii gateway on the building's roof. She walks up to the gate and prays with her hands clasped together. When Hina walks through the gate, she is sent to a mysterious place up in the sky. As she glides through the air, she notices transparent fish swimming underneath her. Hodaka then takes a position on a huge ship nearing Tokyo's borders. The sight of Tokyo's skyscrapers immediately excites him. The weather suddenly changes, and the boat is shook by a heavy downpour, as if it were an act of God. Hodaka loses his equilibrium when the boat sways, and he nearly falls overboard. Keisuke, an adult, saves him and asks Hodaka to thank him by buying him supper and a beer. When they arrive in Tokyo, Keisuke hands Hodaka his business card and encourages him to contact him. When Hodaka is unable to find work in Tokyo, he suddenly finds himself in a tough spot, unable to find a job in Tokyo. He showers at low-cost manga cafes and eats nothing but quick udon and ramen for his meals. He spends the rest of his day aimlessly traversing the streets of Tokyo, searching for nooks to sleep in and get out of the rain. He discovers an abandoned handgun buried in the garbage after tripping over a trash can. He chooses to keep the weapon as a kind of defense. A staff member delivers him a hamburger out of sympathy one day when he goes to bed in a McDonald's. Hina is the member of staff in question. Hodaka decides to phone Keisuke and go to his house to discuss a job offer. Keisuke is not to be seen at home. Instead, Hodaka encounters Natsumi, a lovely woman dozing on the couch. She regains consciousness and announces herself as Keisuke's personal helper. Hodaka inquires about her connection with Keisuke, to which Natsumi flirtatiously winks and responds that their relationship is precisely what he imagines. Returning to Hodaka, Keisuke discusses the job offer, an intern for a mystic magazine. Hodaka becomes Keisuke's assistant and supernatural reporter in exchange for bed and board, a smartphone, and a little compensation. Keisuke assigns Hodaka the responsibility of assisting them in their investigation into reports of a woman known as the 100% Sunny Girl, who has the ability to halt the rain. Hodaka spends most of his time mopping the house and office, conducting interviews, and penning spooky tales. Despite the difficult labor and poor salary, Hodaka has finally found a stable existence in Tokyo. Hodaka observes Hina being harassed by two shady-looking men who try to get her to come work with them on an easy job. While the job title isn't defined, these kinds of men frequently recruit young ladies to work at Kiabukara clubs around Tokyo train stations. Young ladies in scant dress amuse elderly men while pouring drinks at Kiabukara bars. In an attempt to play the hero, Hodaka approaches them and takes Hina's hand, ordering her to flee. When the two men catch up with them, one of them pins Hodaka to the floor and begins abusing him. The guy encourages Hodaka to bring out the gun, knowing he won't pull the trigger. Hodaka fires the gun, but no one is injured, and both men fall silent. Hina snatches Hodaka from behind, and the two flee together. Hina chastises Hodaka for discharging the rifle and acting recklessly in an abandoned building. She assures him she doesn't require his assistance. In a fit of rage, he tosses the pistol on the floor. Hina consoles him and admits that she's aware that he is a fugitive. She introduces herself and leads him to the building's top, which is the same position as the red torii at the opening of the movie. She looks at him as the rainfall continues to fall and adds, "Don't worry, it'll clear up shortly." As the sun breaks through the clouds, Hodaka returns his gaze to Hina, surprised. Hodaka understands Hina is the legendary 100% Sunny Girl as she clutches her hands and rolls her eyes in serious concentration. She confirms his suspicion with a smile. Hodaka visits Hina's residence and meets her brother, and the duo become business partners. He discovers that Hina and her younger brother, Nagi, have been living alone since their mother passed away. They team up to build a website where customers may purchase sunny weather for 3,400 yen. They promptly get orders and set to work. Hina, Hodaka, and Nagi work hard to complete every order, from requests from small children to orders from huge corporations. They discover about a realm just above clouds that existed a long time ago while working for an elderly woman. This narrative refers back to Hodaka's statement at the opening of the movie. On that summer day, above the clouds, we changed the nature of the world. During a festival, Hina even gains television coverage as she works her magic over one of Tokyo's tallest skyscrapers. After that, Hodaka and Hina watch the fireworks from the building's top, and Hina thanks Hodaka for her assistance and expresses her gratitude for being the 100% sunny girl. As Hina's 18th birthday approaches, Hodaka plans to surprise her with a ring. Hodaka introduces Hina to Keisuke and Natsumi after a day out with Keisuke and his daughter. The two are overjoyed to finally meet the renowned sunny girl. After the outing, Hodaka accompanies Hina home and ponders the best timing to present her with the ring. A strong wind blows past him as he gathers the confidence to take the ring out of his pocket, and he braces himself. Hina is floating in the air as he opens his eyes. Hodaka realizes that parts of her hand and arm are as translucent as rain when she returns to him. Hina explains that being the 100% sunny girl comes with a lot of responsibilities. When cops arrive seeking Hodaka, the two of them dry off inside Hina's flat. Hina claims she has never seen him, but the cops claim Hina and her brother are too young to be living on their own. The cops said they'll return with social workers at a later date to talk. Hodaka meets up with Keisuke, who informs him that the cops had already arrived at his workplace, having been dispatched by his parents. Keisuke pays him his entire unpaid wages and instructs him to return home. Nagi and Hina plan to flee Hina's residence because they're afraid of being placed in foster care. Hodaka declares fiercely that he too does not want to return home, and that the three of them will flee together. The three of them hit the streets in search of a hotel to stay in during one of Tokyo's deadliest typhoons. Concerned police officers approach them, identifying Hodaka as the runaway youngster that they're seeking for. Hina summons a lightning bolt by accident, causing a parked vehicle to explode. Because the cops are busy, Hodaka, Hina, and Nagi are able to flee. They pay 30,000 yen to rent one of the few rooms available. They take a bath, plunder the mini fridge, and sing karaoke until Nagi falls asleep, finally able to rest. After a tumultuous day, Hodaka finally gets some alone time with Hina and generates the guts to present her with the ring he purchased for her. She is overjoyed and grateful for the present, but she promptly breaks Hodaka's heart with horrible news. Hina's abilities have implications, and people who have been given them are unable to live in the normal world. If they do, the region will be drenched all the time. She informs Hodaka that she thinks her time is running out, and that she has no control over it. She tries to remain tough and urges him to take care of Nagi, but she loses her cool and the two hug. Hodaka begs her not to leave, and the two of them sob together. When Hodaka wakes up the next day, Hina is nowhere to be found. Hodaka and Nagi are transported to the police station when the cops burst into the room. Hina's ring falls from the sky to the earth on the route to the police station. When Hodaka takes it up, she knows she's in the legendary land above the clouds. He begs the detective to allow him to go to Hina's rescue in the police station, but the detective doesn't believe him. The investigator informs Hodaka that Hina is also 15 years old and that she lied about being 18 to appear more mature in front of him and her younger brother. Instead of leaving discreetly, Hodaka bolts from the police station, trailed by a swarm of cops. Natsumi arrives on a motorcycle to save him and informs him that Nagi summoned her. Hodaka leads her to the Crimson Torii Gate on the roof of the building. They arrive at a dead end because the roads have been entirely flooded by the cyclone. To get to the building, Hodaka goes on foot and runs along the railroad line. He enters the premises and is greeted by Keisuke, who attempts to persuade him to return to the police station. Keisuke assures Hodaka that he hasn't committed any severe offenses. Keisuke bites Hodaka on the arm and pulls himself away as he drags him out of the room. Hodaka discovers the rifle he had dropped on the ground the previous time he and Hina visited the location. He takes it and aims it at Keisuke, refusing to go until he has found Hina. The cops rush in and take Hodaka into custody. Keisuke is overcome with compassion for Hodaka and fights the cops off of him. Nagi also shows up at the building and assists Keisuke in fighting off the cops. Hodaka dashes to the building's roof and frantically leaps through the torii gate. He finds himself just above the clouds, which are dropping at a rapid rate. He notices a big cloud with grassy lands above it. He calls Hina's name and makes an attempt to approach her. Hina is startled awake when she hears his voice and notices him falling. She dashes to the cloud's edge and leaps for him. They plummet into the sky, urgently attempting to contact one another. Finally, they clasp hands and pull each other in close. Hodaka assures her that the rain is unimportant to him. He doesn't mind if Tokyo's skies are perpetually overcast. Hodaka tells her that she is everything to him and that he is in love with her. The two of them are discovered sleeping beneath the torii gate by the cops. Hina is apprehended by authorities and Hodaka is returned to his homeland. He is being monitored for fear of him fleeing once more. Tokyo will be drenched for the next 3 years and will be almost totally buried in water. Some buildings are fully submerged by the water, forcing residents to rely on ferries instead of the multiple Tokyo rail lines. Hodaka and Hina have not communicated in 3 years. Hodaka, on the other hand, travels back to Tokyo after graduating from high school to pursue university while living on his own. He meets up with Keisuke, whose company has grown to the point that he now has an office in a Tokyo high-rise and 2 hired assistants. Hodaka also pays a visit to the elderly woman who engaged their weather forecasting services so many years ago. She informs him that Tokyo used to be surrounded by water many centuries ago, so they're essentially going back to the way things were. He sees a young girl in a high school uniform clasping her hands with her eyes closed while traversing the same road he and Hina used to walk. With tears in his eyes, he recognizes Hina and cries out to her. She dashes up to him and the two embrace, assuring each other that everything would be great after all. Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a big thumbs up and also hit the subscribe button so you always catch our videos. Until next time.